Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. I am so excited about today's show because we're talking about the art of storytelling, which we can all get a little better at storytelling. If you are new to my channel, I am Kate Volman. I share ideas and inspiration to help you live a more creative and fulfilling life. I share a lot of book recommendations and reviews and leadership tips. So if you're new to my channel, I invite you to subscribe so we can stay connected. Today, I'm so excited because, like I said, we're talking about the art of storytelling, and I'm so thrilled to introduce you to my special guest, Stephen McCall. He is a senior policy advisor to the U.S. Congress on military space and missile defense, where he provides authoritative analysis on foreign and domestic space issues to members of Congress and their staff. Outside his day job in national security, I bet you wouldn't guess that he is also an author, playwright, producer, and performer. Most recently, in January of 2021, he took a break from his career and started his second chapter of life and became a single father of two amazing boys from Colombia through international adoption. Such an incredible story. As a playwright, he made his off-Broadway debut in a solo show called Dig Deep in October of 2021 at the Triad Theater in New York City. He is also the creator and writer of a full stage musical called Imaginary Boy about his life growing up with Tourette Syndrome. He is a national and international keynote speaker featured in New York Times, CNN, and most recently, Authority magazine. So please join me in welcoming my incredible guest, Stephen McCall.
Woo! Hello, Kate. How are you?
I am so great. How are you?
I am doing amazing. I'm so excited to be able to chat with you about the art of storytelling.
Oh my gosh, me too. It's so funny. We were just chatting before we went live, and I said, so it's so interesting reading your bio because it's like you're this, it's very very professional, very like US Congress of Military. I do all of these things, like, and then you're also a playwright and you're such a creative individual. And I think we all have kind of both sides, right? We can have this very creative side and this more kind of serious side. But I was so excited when we talked about, hey, what are we going to call this episode and what do you really want to talk about? And immediately when I told you about Create for No Reason and the podcast and what it was, you're like, oh, I'll talk about playwriting all day long.
Oh, yes. Yes,
So
that's my love.
I know. So let's talk about, well, there's so many places I want to go with it. And I definitely want to talk about, you and I met originally on Clubhouse.
Mm-hmm.
I got to hear your story. It was a beautiful story. I still remember being in tears because you were sharing about your adoption and your boys. And it's just a beautiful journey that you were on. And so I definitely want to talk about that and hopefully get to meet your beautiful boys. But let's start with kind of your career and what you do and how you kind of transitioned to some of the creative work that you do.
Yes, well, by day, I am a senior advisor to the U.S. Congress. So I manage the space portfolio, missile defense, and defense innovation for both the House of Representatives in addition to the U.S. Senate. So I have around 535 bosses in addition to their committee staff and their personal staff. So my bosses probably equal around 1,000 some odd. And any day, any night, I can receive a phone call or email to answer questions about national security space. And usually I have to answer it very quickly. So I am the resident expert on military space. My job in Congress is to write. So I get paid as a research analyst to write authoritative research about military space and the capabilities that we have available in the United States, in addition to other foreign countries. So by day, I do write for Congress, but that transitions to night as a playwright and author and a single dad by choice. So that is my career. I've been in the government. I have served in the military. And for those who read my bio, I do have Tourette Syndrome, ADHD, and OCD. And yes, I was in the United States Air Force. I snuck in there, being a performer I am, and made it through, and then was discharged and became a defense civilian and have served in the federal position for around 23 years.
Oh my gosh. So what got you into that? What drew you to that line of work to begin with?
Well, that's a very good question, Kate, because in the beginning of my show, Dig Deep, it starts off by saying, and you probably heard it on Clubhouse, imagine a teenage boy sitting in a dark room alone, holding a fully loaded gun. He was staring death in his face. He was living the last day on earth. This boy had to escape away from what he felt was a war zone in Detroit, Michigan, and that was me. So I decided in February of 1997 or January 1997, I was in my second semester of undergrad at Western Michigan University. We had around 27 inches of snow. I was in trouble at school, hanging with the wrong group, and I asked the recruiter if I can get in the military in the next 4 weeks. I would drop out of school and leave. February 21st, 4 weeks later, I was shipped off to Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. And that's where my chapter one begins, because I had to perform during boot camp to hide the tics and the vocal tics and the eye tics. And that's how I ended up joining the United States Air Force. And then, unfortunately, or fortunately, I was discharged after receiving an ROTC scholarship to college back in 2000 to 2002. And then during the medical discharge, within 4 to 5 weeks again, I found myself no career, no job. And then I became a Department of Defense civilian within 3 to 4 weeks after graduating on December 14th, 2002. So my journey into the military was always running from something. But then I found that it really was in my journey to become a military member of the Air Force, because it really did change my life. It gave me hope.
Mm. What were some of your biggest lessons that you learned that you still applied today from the military?
Oh, lessons. The number one lesson is my community. I did not have a community in Detroit, Michigan. Hence, I was suicidal as a teenager. And through all of my musicals and plays and the book or books, because I have one coming out soon, I talk about that feeling of wanting to get away. So, since we're talking about the art of storytelling, and I am a playwright, off-Broadway, I write musicals. All of my references are probably going to be musical related. So it's like in Newsies when Jack Kelly said he wanted to go far away to a place where they consider him a friend. And he wants to go to Santa Fe. It's like this imaginary place that he pictured going, where he can just escape and get away from all of life's troubles. So for my entire life, I was looking for that escape to Santa Fe. So for the military, that was my Santa Fe. And when I arrived there, I was surprised that I had supervisors, I had leaders, I had camaraderie amongst my fellow soldiers and airmen that treated me like a brother, and they loved me like a son. And that's something that I was really looking for my entire life. And once I found it, I want to keep a hold of it and never leave it again, because that's something I did not experience much as a teenager. So the number one lesson from the military is community and helping others who might not feel like they have the community. And that's why I storytell and I write and I do plays, because I'm looking for that person, that Michael, that Stephen, the main character of my show. I'm looking for that person who wants to get away to Santa Fe, and I want to provide them a Santa Fe experience.
Mm. When when I think about the military, one thing that I think of is discipline.
Yeah.
And how discipline in every area of your life, but even in creativity, how important it is to be disciplined, especially for someone like you who's a writer, like
Right.
being disciplined to actually. So how did kind of some of that stuff translate into your creative work?
Oh boy. So one of the scenes in my show, Dig Deep, I actually take the audience to Lackland Air Force Base. And actually in my closet right there, I have some of the props. I have my drill instructor hat and I have my military uniform. So in the military, it was discipline that I needed as a young child, as a young teenager. I joined when I was around 19 years old. And with the dynamic of having Tourette syndrome and blinking my eyes and doing the different ticks, I had to find creative ways to work around that during boot camp. So during the show of Dig Deep, I show the audience how it was like to be in the shoes of Michael, the main character. And with the military and discipline, it did allow me to really have more material for Netflix and Broadway, off-Broadway. It gave me tons of material. And now that I look back, during the hard times of discipline and going through boot camp, and I went through boot camp 2 times, one for enlisted, and then I was actually accepted into the ROTC program to become a second lieutenant. So I had to go through officer boot camp a second time. So I have 2 ribbons for boot camp as a military officer. And this really opened up the door for me to be more creative in my writings, even though when I was in the military, I could not disclose that I had a diagnosis of Tourette syndrome. Once I was discharged, within 1 year, I called the Tourette Syndrome Association, said, "Hey, I am here. Let's get together. Let me meet. Let me come to an event." And my first event was at the Beverly Wilshire in Beverly Hills, California, where I met the first person ever with Tourette syndrome, and he was a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force.
No way.
It was unbelievable at the Beverly Hills Wilshire, and I believe not Janet Jackson, but LaToya Jackson was there, and a lot of the A-lister actors. It was a fundraiser to raise over $1 million for the association, and I remember just sitting at the table in shock. And I remember a doctor saw me. I was at the table, and they said, "Oh, so where do you practice? You must be a neurosurgeon or a neurologist or a doctor." And I said, "No, actually, I have Tourette syndrome." And they said, "You do? We've never seen anybody that's Black with Tourette syndrome." I'm like, "I'm Black? Oh my God!" Don't stare at me. Oh my God. I didn't realize I was Black. That was humor. I realized I was Black, but it was the first time they had ever met anybody with Tourette syndrome that looked like me. So my creativeness and the storytelling, it worked in the military. And I was actually able to create some things in the military. And yeah, that's how I use the military to create this dig deep enterprise that I am building, and I have. And my gosh, Kate, I was off Broadway on October 21st or 22nd. It's just unbelievable.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. Okay, so I want to talk about Broadway because I can't even imagine what that was like. But first, I have to ask, do you have a dream role, Stephen? Like if someone was like, you could play whoever you want on stage, what's your dream role?
Wow, nobody's ever asked me that. So my dream role, I'll say 2. Newsies, hands down. I want to be Jack Kelly. Far away, that song. I want to be Jack Kelly. So that would be my number 1. However, on a more serious note, I would love to play the Phantom of the Opera. And one of my not mentors, but one of my idols in Broadway is Norm Lewis. He was the first Black Phantom of the Opera to appear on Broadway. So that would be my dream role.
Oh, I like it. So for somebody that's watching or listening and they're thinking, "Oh, Broadway's not really my thing, but maybe I'll go see a show." What is like one of the top 3 shows that you feel like you got to go see?
Yes. Well, right now I am into the series Bel Air. And I am into the series of Bel Air, the reboot of the Fresh Prince of Bel Air, because I like nice cars. I like nice houses. I like those stories of overcoming. I am a product of overcoming great adversity. So I love seeing people like me. I was not like Will Smith in the show that they have. But Bel Air is definitely something that my children and I watch faithfully. We are upset that it only comes on Thursdays, and we have to wait 7 days for the next episode. But it reminds me of me coming from Detroit, joining the military, and being given a second chance at life. And I think that's the key. In Detroit, I was going to die, no questions asked. And I was able to get a second chance at life joining the military. And that's why Bel Air so far is one of my favorite TV shows just because it's about a Philadelphia child or teenager who got in some trouble with the law and was given a second chance to live. So that would be number one. Number two, we love some Spanish shows. I'm not going to say
No,
all of them.
we gotta go to the theater. These people have to go to the theater.
Oh, the theater. Yes. Okay. The theater. The theater. Well, I would say my number one right now would be to go see. I hate to do this, Kate, but West Side Story.
Really?
West Side Story. I know it's a musical, but West Side Story is a musical in the theater. Did
I
you not?
love West Side Story is I remember when I was a young girl and I watched it on TV and my parents and my mom was like, You love it? I said, I love West Side Story. I'm like, I don't know why, but
Yeah.
I was like dancing. I like knew all the words to the songs and it was just so, so good. I think that's when I kind of fell in love. Maybe that was one of the first musicals that I really fell in love with because I
Wow.
love seeing musicals. They are my favorite.
And unfortunately, not unfortunately, the theater question is very hard because I always tend to go see musicals. When The Greatest Showman came out, that's a musical.
Oh my God.
When all these other shows come out, the ones that my heart leans to are musicals. But for you non-musical fans, I would go see. This is a trick question because I don't see anything.
I didn't say you couldn't say musicals.
Oh, good. Yes.
Yeah,
So
I'm
West
just saying
Side
go to the
Story.
theater.
Yes, West Side Story. And I say that because the art of storytelling, like your topic today, it's different telling a story on stage, telling a story in a book, and then taking it to the big screen. So one of my dreams, and I'm one of those people, I am not superstitious. I don't believe in jinx. I believe in telling what my dreams are, and nobody's going to stop me from doing it. So, for example, my musical and also now the Dig Deep show, I see that as a stage musical. So it's a one-man show now, but and as you see, I have the script right here. So this is the actual working script that I can read from if I mess up. So it's larger. It's larger words. Um, when I picture stories and I create, I always see it in three dimensions. Meaning, I can see it as a book as I'm writing the script. I can also see it on stage, but I always see it as a musical. So even though my one man show is not a musical, in my mind, I already see the characters. I already see the tap dancers. I can already see the choreography. I can already see the dance scenes. And when I'm ticking real hard, other kids and other teenagers or adults are going to come out and they're going to be tap dancing with the ticks. So if I'm going like that, they're going to do a tick and they're going to do a twist and they're going to do maybe a split or a backflip. That's what I see and envision when I am creating this art of storytelling. Likewise, I also see it on the big screen. So that is not my expertise, but I can also see Dig Deep on the big screen, whether it's a musical on the big screen or just a regular drama series, I can also see that. So when I see West Side Story and The Music Man and The Phantom of the Opera and Shrek the Musical, and there was one other that came on, Annie, all of those, Oliver, all of those different type of musicals, America's Greatest, when they transform it from stage to film, I'm always one of those critics to see how they crush it. And West
Mm,
Side Story, they crushed it.
really?
Yes, they did.
Oh, what about The Greatest Showman?
Oh my
But
gosh.
was that in the I didn't know that was the theater. I thought that was just a movie.
So that was in the theater. I'm sorry. When you say theater, you're just talking about movie theater?
Oh no, I'm talking about like the theater, like New York
Wow. I'm
City.
sorry. My mind goes everywhere. Welcome to the Art of Storytelling, everybody. I'm Steve McCall.
Yeah.
Um, so no, the Greatest Showman should be on the stage. So
Oh, I
in
would love
theater.
on this. Could you
Oh,
imagine it being on stage with
oh,
Jackman?
Jack.
That
It would be
I
unbelievable.
I'm obsessed still I listen to it over and over. I will sometimes find songs. Sometimes I ask my friends, if you had to listen to a song on repeat tomorrow, what would it be? They hate when I ask them that because they say nobody wants to do that. I do that. And one of the songs that I do that is Never Enough by The Greatest Showman.
Yes,
It
yes,
is
yes.
so gorgeous.
It's an amazing, amazing show. It should be in the theater. So
It
now that I
should.
understand the question, if somebody wants to go to the theater and see a musical, is the question, correct?
Yeah. Or just see a show.
Oh, okay. Uh, well, because you mentioned The Greatest Showman, The Music Man. That's one of my other favorite shows that is actually in a theater, but it's also in the Winter Garden Theater on Broadway. And what's his name?
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman and Foster. I forgot her, Sutton Foster. They are the stars of that show. That one, me and my children definitely will go see because it is just going to be an amazing, amazing show. So, Music Man number one. If you're in New York, Music Man. If you can't go to New York, go to the Lion King Theater Broadway tour across America. We know somebody in it from Clubhouse and Breakfast with
Yes, Darius
Champions.
Sanders,
Darian, yep.
who has his single, the Sun Will Rise, that is another song that is just gorgeous, beautiful, and I
It's
can listen to over and
amazing.
over.
Yes. So Lion King, and then the third one, and for the viewers or listening, people who are listening, some might say, "Oh, we knew he was going to say that," but you want to be in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. Hamilton.
Oh, Hamilton. I know. I haven't seen Hamilton. I need to
Oh,
see it.
I got to see it at the Kennedy Center on a special night where we got to spend time with the cast, and they had the DJ, the real DJ that made the mix CD, and it was a special fundraiser at the Kennedy Center. And I spent time with the cast and took pictures, and we stayed there till around 1 o'clock in the morning. And that show was just amazing. And Disney Plus has it. It's amazing. My kids love it. They just love everything about Hamilton. So
Yeah,
yes, that is the
I
other
need to
one.
watch that. All right. So, I mean, obviously, you've seen a lot of plays. You're a writer. I want to dig into your writing, but I also want to know from your perspective what makes a good story. Like, I think a lot of people have this dream of writing a book or writing a play or just writing in general or writing a keynote presentation. Like, we're
Mhm.
storytelling every single day. So, what are the components of a great story?
So many people get into the technical aspects about, you have to have the plot. Let me fix my microphone. You have to have a plot and the antagonist and the protagonist and the automatopoeia and A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I'm a very basic writer. I don't know what all that means. I am not trained as a writer. I am not trained as a playwright. I just write. So when I'm creating a piece, I think about what would I want to see? What would make me laugh? What makes me move emotionally? So when I'm looking at my characters, and yes, the antagonist, the protagonist, for example, in my musical, the the antagonist, I believe it's called, is the person who is coming against you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the antagonist is a bully, and the bully, I can't give it away, but the bully is the one that kind of pushes Michael to having a gun to his head. So when I'm writing, I put myself in each character's shoes. So when I'm writing about the bully, I take myself out of me being me as Stephen Michael, and I put myself into that character. What is the bully thinking about? How does he feel? How does she perceive life? And then I'm able to create that character into this person that people learn to hate in my show, but at the end, they learn to love and have compassion for, because I'm able to put myself in the shoes of that character. And that's why I love storytelling, especially writing stage musicals and regular shows and books, because I can go into worlds that other people can't go into. If I want the character to say, take my book bag and throw it on the wall, I can do it. If I want the character to have a bad day, I can write the bad day in there. But if I want the characters to succeed at the end, I'm the boss. I'm the writer. I'm the playwright. So the good dynamics of, or the dynamics of a good show is really, if you're creating, take yourself out of the book and think about it. Would you enjoy it? Does it make you laugh? I can read some parts of my show right now and I bust out laughing. I'm not sure if that's good, but I laugh and I'm having fun. And I found out when we went to Off-Broadway, the parts that I laughed at, the audience laughed at. The parts that I broke down in while with my director, Miss Dawn Troop, an amazing director, and my branding manager, Sylvia Hoke. They're just a dynamic, amazing team that helped me with this show. When we were going through rehearsals, if I broke down in tears, so did my director. It wasn't because she saw me tearing up. As I led to that part to tear up, she was already feeling the emotion of the character Michael. So that's how I write. And I make sure that if I feel the pain or the suffering or the joy or the success, or if I feel like saying woohoo, or I feel like screaming, or when I'm ticking, I want the audience to feel that also. And most of the time, like you, during Clubhouse, when I shared the story, my tears were real. It's my story, and I cannot tell my story without tearing up at certain parts of it. So I know if I feel that way, it's going to be very powerful with my audiences.
So when you're writing, and I get that, right? You're like, you got to get into the feeling of it, but are there, like, for someone that is trying to be a better writer
Mhm.
or writing whatever it is, like I said, a keynote, they're writing a show, a book, whatever it is, we have to step outside of ourselves and like
Yeah.
and put ourselves into that person's shoes. So do you have kind of a, like, do you think about storytelling in a way that it needs to have specific components in order for you to kind of benchmark so that you know you're getting it right throughout your writing process?
Yeah, so for me, if it's a keynote, I definitely use the basic, I guess, model where you have an opening, you share 3 points, and then you close with your opening. So you're telling your listeners or the audience what you told them in the beginning, take them through the 3 steps for the keynotes. I believe it's the same in storytelling and musicals and my one-man show. For example, the introduction had a gun to the head, literally. It was a teenage boy with a gun to his head. However, it was an empty chair. Then you go through the dynamics of the show. So I went from a 19-year-old to a 23-year-old to a 35 to 40-year-old. I provide them 3 highlights, 3 or 4 highlights of my life, but they still remember that empty chair at the beginning of the teenager who had a gun to his head living the last days on his life of his life. Then after you go through the main topics or the plot during the show, then at the end, I did the exact same thing as I do in a keynote, except this time when people see the show, that empty chair is no longer empty. It's my older son who looks like me. It's my older son sitting there with the exact same hat, because I had a New York Yankees hat, I think, on a New York Yankees hat, and he had the exact same hat on. Then people know, oh, that's the kid that we didn't see earlier in the show. And what I was doing is I was speaking to my younger self and I was speaking life to him. So I was trying to show the audience, this is how we started. This is the middle, the plot, all the action, the sadness, the adversity. But this is how the story ends, taking them back to the beginning. And I do the same thing in keynotes and also the book. I always take the audience back to the openings. I always try to have a very powerful opening, as we say in writing, the hook. If you don't hook them right away, you're going to lose them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes total sense. In fact, it's funny, as you were talking, I envisioned, that book, Little Fires Everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it has the opening, and the opening is and they have a show about it now. So like the opening is the burning of the house, and she's sitting in the car, and like oh my gosh, we want to know like who burned the house down. And then it takes you through the whole story. And then at the very end, it's spoiler alert if you haven't read it or seen it, but it's her. So it's like, oh, it's like it's that full circle. So it's that typical kind of like tell them what you're going to tell them and then tell them and then tell them what you told them kind of a thing, which is great. When you're writing, Stephen, do you have any rituals or habits that kind of prepare you for the process of sitting down and getting words on the page?
So I cannot write at a desk. I have to be very comfortable. Most of the musical and the dig deep, I wrote literally on a couch. So I get very comfortable. I put my feet in the massage machine, and I write. So my ritual really is just to make sure I'm comfortable. Many times, if I'm on an airplane, I do my best writing because it puts me at ease. I'm very comfortable. Or on vacation. I have gone on vacation or just taken a weekend away, went to a hotel, locked myself in the room, get in the bed or on the couch and just relax. So that's my ritual. And also something else I learned a long time ago is I'm also an editor because of my job in Congress. So I know how to peer review and I peer review often. So I always have to edit my own work. In writing, I have to force myself not to edit my work. So if I just free flow and just type and type and type and don't worry about punctuation, don't worry about grammar, I have found that that works magic. It is just my secret sauce. And I think a lot of writers' secret sauce. If we just flow and just write and don't worry about mistakes, don't worry about, we use Final Draft. And don't worry about if the action is in the right place or when you hit action and then you have the character and the character has to have a parentheses and they have to have a, if they're sitting or standing, don't worry about all that. Just write. And I think that is the ritual that I had to do with Dig Deep because a tidbit, a nugget here, Dig Deep premiered for the premiere reading Off-Broadway in October of 2021. In June of 2021, there was nothing on paper. Nothing.
Wow.
So I had not started writing Dig Deep. I didn't even have a title for Dig Deep. It was all in my brain. And my branding manager and very close friend, Sylvia, she said, Stephen, we did a photo shoot in New York in July. She said, okay, let's get this. You need to be on stage. Let's call the Triad. I'm thinking that's Off-Broadway. Okay. I sent them an email. They said, we're ready to book you. And I did not even have a script. So I booked it and I said, oh my gosh, this is like August timeframe. I had to hurry up and write a script, a full script, hire a director. And the story goes from September to October, July, August, September, October, that we premiered a off-Broadway show in less than 10 weeks from zero, so nothing. All of this.
Yeah.
All of this in June, nothing. There is nothing there. So I had no choice but to follow my ritual of not editing because I had to get it done. The Off-Broadway venue was booked. I had to show up.
Yeah. You got to show up and put in the work. Yeah. It's funny as you're talking because it's very, a lot of writers. So I love studying writers and the writing process. And Anne Lamott has a book. I don't know if you've read Bird by Bird, but like Anne Lamott and even Stephen King, they talk about, they use different words, but it's basically the horrible first draft. That's basically what they all say, right? It's like, I did a writing program and they called it the vomit draft. It was like, you just get it all out on the page. And the reason they called it the vomit draft was because they said, you don't care what you look like when you're vomiting. Like it's just, you want to feel better. And so it was just this idea of just like getting it all out and like, you can't censor yourself. You just have to like get it all onto the page, knowing that it might really suck, but you can turn horrible words into something, but you can't turn nothing into something. So you actually just have to
Yes.
do it. So I love that you figured that out to really do it. I think it's really hard for people, especially because so many of us deal with perfectionism and like we want it to be, we think that we can sit down and write a full play or book or keynote in an hour when really it's going to take a little longer than that.
It is. It is. Now, I actually write better under pressure. I
Do
don't know
you?
why. I'm working on a space report right now, and I'm under pressure to get it done by tomorrow. And let's just say I've worked probably around 30 to 40 hours in the past 5 days or 6 days at night, and it's a masterpiece. I mean, I'm going through peer review, and there's a lot of revisions I'm doing after the show. But the point is, for me, I love writing under pressure because it forces me to focus and get that vomit draft out. Because if I have tons of time on my hands, I'm going to edit. I'm going to try to create this masterpiece without having a draft, and it just doesn't work. So for me, I actually do like writing under pressure. So when it came to the Off-Broadway show, I was under pressure. When it comes
Yeah.
to if a movie deal comes and they say, hey, send us a pitch in the next 7 days, Academy Award, just because I'm under pressure. If they say send me a draft in 1 year, it won't even get on Netflix.
Oh my gosh. It's like one of the benefits of procrastination
Mm-hmm.
is that like creativity. Like if you have to get it done, that's so funny. All right. So Stephen, I have two questions. One, um, the best advice that you can give to someone who is in the process of writing right now and they feel a little stuck. I mean, I don't know that I really believe in that whole concept of writer's block, but if someone has quote unquote writer's block, what advice would you give to someone that's writing right now?
Yes. So, well, I think the vomit draft. I've never heard that term before. I'm going to start picturing that.
I got that from Scribe, the company Scribe. So shout out to them.
Yes, no, I like that because I have had, I don't really necessarily say writer's block. For me, it's just procrastinating.
Yeah.
It's just because I'm not in the right mood. I'm not in the right space. And sometimes I just have to step away from my piece. So, those who are experiencing that, I would say just write. Literally, just take 30 minutes a day. I often find myself trying to take a 5 hour or 6 hour block and say I want to write a 100 page book. Writing 100 pages in 6 or 7 hours is very difficult. However, if you have 100 days, write 1 page a day. It's that simple. Write 1 page a day and don't worry about editing. Don't worry about what it looks like, but commit yourself to 1 page a day. And at the end of that 100 days, you'll have 100 pages. And then you can go back and see where you can make some edits or some changes, or maybe change a character. And then I think that would help that person overcome writer's block because you're committing yourself to writing only 1 page, one, not two, not three, 1 page a day. Doesn't matter what it looks like. Don't edit it. Don't pencil it through. Just write 1 page a day, put it down, and go get a coffee.
Yes, I like it. All right. And then I always ask my guests before I let them go to share what is one exercise that we can do 10 minutes or less to help us become more creative?
Oh, that's a good question. Kate, you are asking me questions I have never been asked before. One exercise. So I think for me, an exercise that I guess I didn't realize I do it, but before I'm going to write, many times I literally will sit on the couch, I'll lean back, breathe deeply, and I put my head back, and I literally just picture myself on stage. I picture myself like right now, I see myself at the Triad Theater, and I see myself at the Winter Garden Theater with 3,000 people, and I'm picturing myself of what I'm saying. So for me, I take myself into that scene. So say day 15, it's the military. I will take myself back to the military and I will close my eyes and I'll picture what, for me, what it looks like on stage. Because if I picture what it looks like on stage, then I know what to write. So I would say the best exercise for, and you can try it, is to sit back in your chair or wherever you're comfortable, because that's the key. You have to be comfortable and have a clear mind. Close your eyes, meditate, and really think about what you are writing, because we live very busy lives. I'm a single dad of 2 children. All of that has to exit when I'm about to write a masterpiece. So that's what I do. I sit back, close my eyes, and really try to put myself into that specific scene that I'm writing. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I like it. All right, awesome. Well, Stephen, you're so great. I'm so excited for everything that you are working on. What is the best way for people to support you right now in your work?
Yes. Well, there's a couple things. Follow me on Instagram, Stephen_M_McCall. That is the best way. You can also find me at stephenmccall.com. You can find more information about Dig Deep there. And the Dig Deep original off-Broadway show will be for purchase or rent coming this spring. It is unedited, uncut. It is just raw material. It is not going to be for sale for long because I don't want millions of people. If millions of people buy it, great, but I'm not going to keep it out there forever because it really is raw. So Instagram, and I also have a YouTube channel. If you want to follow us for my adoption journey, you can follow us on YouTube and meet Santiago and Julie and Stephen, the McCalls, on our adventures all over the world.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. Yeah, that's like a whole other video we'll have to do.
Yes.
You are so great. Thank you so much for joining me today. I so appreciate you.
Thank you. It is an honor, and it's such a privilege to be on your show, and I can't wait to meet you in person. Thank you for having
Oh,
me.
me too. Oh my gosh, so good. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Stephen. He's so great. And seriously, go check out his YouTube channel because it really is a beautiful journey. I just think it is so wonderful when you get families together that are creating videos and helping other people. And it is a beautiful story of adoption. So check out his YouTube channel. And I'm excited to see what else he's creating. And I hope that you take him up on that exercise. I love the exercise that our guests share with us as far as how they become more creative, because we can all become more creative. And I love hearing people's rituals. So if there is something that you have done in the past that has really worked for you in your creative process or journey, then please share it in the comments below. We always love hearing from you specifically. Thank you again for joining me in this video. If you, like I said, if you're new to my channel, I share a lot of, I share journaling prompts, book recommendations, leadership tips, really lots of content to help you live a more creative and fulfilling life. So if you are not yet subscribed, please subscribe to my channel so we can stay connected. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.